Hey there, everyone. I'm Ryan Wolf, the host of the Coffee People and Coffee Smarter podcasts. This crazy dog is Keto. He wanted to join us today and get involved in the show. Our podcast is presented, by Roastar Coffee Packaging. You can find them online at roastar.com. They're a coffee packaging company based in the Midwest, actually in my hometown of Wausau, Wisconsin. But there's so much more to this show than just this company that helps enable us tell these stories. They're our partners. They're our collaborators. They actually made this bag for me right here, the collab that we did with Relative Coffee out of Minneapolis. So for those of you that are listening and watching, if you're looking for a new coffee packaging partner, someone who will create packages that are worthy of those specialty craft beans you're going to put in them, check out roastar.com. You can bring your own design. You can develop something new with the help of one of their recommended designers. You can even create something from scratch using their AI-powered design lab, which is still relatively new, but is very cool. On roastar.com, they'll enable you to tell the big story of your small business in the same way that they've enabled us to tell the stories of coffee people, which we really appreciate. Check them out on roastar.com. And now, it's time for the show. Again, nobody's here with us. It's just me and you. And I'm going to jump into this fancy read that I wrote down. So people see me looking away. That's why. Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the Coffee People podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Wolt. Our show is presented by Roastar Coffee Packaging, which you can find online at roastar.com. Our podcast, Coffee People, is part of our Roast West Coast Coffee Network. You can go to coffeepeoplepodcast.com to find the recaps of this episode, all of our other shows, including Coffee Smarter. And if you haven't poured yourself a coffee yet, now would be a good time to do that. Our guest today is Pablo Lara, a trader at InterAmerican Coffee based in San Diego, California, where I'm also based. You can find InterAmerican online at interamericancoffee.com, and you can find Pablo online on social media at Coffee Playtime. Those links, of course, in the show's podcast notes and in our newsletter, which we send out every week. Pablo, welcome to Coffee People. I'm glad you're here and we're finally getting a chance to do this.
Yes, thank you, Ryan.
We have a lot to cover today, and you have a very unique role in coffee and a different viewpoint than a lot of people that we talk to on this show. From your position as trader for InterAmerican. InterAmerican is part of a larger green coffee group as well. Could you explain what it is, what your role is? What does a trader do? What does that mean?
Yeah. So I think at the most basic level, basically a trader is just like a salesperson, right? I feel like that's the main role that I play in this supply chain. But given the complexities of specialty coffee and how unique of an industry it is in the grand scheme of commodities, there's a lot of other things that I feel like make up the majority of my job. As you know, with any sort of person in coffee, it's about the constant state of learning and research and staying up to date. And especially for me, what I like to see my job as is the person that's connecting the roasters with specific coffees and kind of helping roasters navigate this very complex world of the green coffee supply chain and have fun doing it. Like keep the energy of excitement, of like interest, and but also at the same time keeping it real, keeping the education happening and giving my perspective on how things are going. It is a very like complex supply chain because there's all these countries involved. There's climate change happening, all the political things that affect all these different countries that we bring coffee from. Um, Even internal politics, like things happening at the ports. These all play a part into my daily communication with roasters. So, like, just a normal day, I get to the office, I brew my coffee, and then I would say like the first hour or so, I'm like reading articles, keeping up with news from Latin America, and I read all these reports that I get from our sister companies all over the world, and it's really cool because my background is I went to school for history, so it's really cool that I get to like almost create this daily narrative of what I'm going to be talking about with my customers. So there's that part, but then at the same time, I'm at the forefront of what people are asking, what people are wanting to buy, the trends, as some people call it. So I also have to be the receptor of that communication and then translate it into actually changing the direction of certain purchases or coffees that we're buying. So that's also part of my job, is updating the what we're purchasing, right? I don't really like to call it sourcing. I feel like it's more of a communication between what the roasters are asking for, what's available, and what we can make happen. And it's this dialogue. So it's a lot of connecting the pieces of that front that people call sourcing. And then, you know, uh, also a big part of it is obviously quality control, cupping, staying in the loop of how the coffees are tasting, because that personally is what gets me excited, right? So
Sure.
so there's all these things, and then I think the most important part that I feel like a lot of people don't get to see or understand about being a trader is just like all the staying organized and all the office work, all the logistical work that takes to
Mhm.
every morning I take a look at everybody's contracts, and make sure everybody's like good, like the coffees are there ready for the people who I know are going to order. And then you kind of create this mental map of everybody's profiles and usage and what they're, and you almost get to the point where you're like predicting what people are going to need. And I
Mm.
constantly find myself like emailing people like, hey, you're gonna want to book this now, and then they're like, dude, Pablo, thank you so much. I was literally about to check up on that. And it's crazy how you just uh, go into this like almost organic state of communication with so many people, and things just kind of work out, and it's really magical. But yeah, big part of that is just like staying super organized and genuinely caring about the people that you're working with.
Also, this what I'm hearing is like an incredible ability to multitask at different paces, because each of these different clients on both sides are going to be at different points in their daily business or their monthly business, and you're somehow managing to kind of shift between those as you are talking to each different one, or when you're talking to one, connecting that in your brain to go, oh, my other customer over here, that's who's going to benefit from what you're working on. How do you
Mhm.
build trust with these clients? I should ask first, is there any average on, like, say, I work with roughly this many people at a time? Is it 5 roasters and farmers? Is it 100? Is it, is it a much
Well,
bigger, I don't know where that number is.
yeah. So I meant to look at that before I got on but it's around. So I have like under my name, I have like around probably like 200 to 250 like customers
Oh,
that
wow.
are assigned to me.
Mm-hmm.
Of people that have either previously bought from me or are just somehow under my scope. But last year I ended up selling from those 250 like around 270 customers that like I sold to,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is a lot. It's a lot of roasters. They're all like smaller to medium and some bigger customers, but yeah, it's a lot of people, and I truly know everybody obviously by name and by preference. And it was funny, like at the end of every year, I write like a card, like a little holiday card to all my customers, and I literally like it was crazy how I knew everybody's name just just writing it up, and I was like, yeah, and I ended up sending like 160 cards.
Yeah, did you ice have to ice your hand afterwards?
It took like 3 days, so
Well,
it
that
was like slow pace.
that leads me back to that question of trust with so many clients and customers who are all going to have different personalities and different, attitudes towards what they're doing. How do you build that over, does it just take time, or when you're approaching a new customer, what is it that, what is the feeling that you get when you go, this is going to be a good relationship?
No, that's a good question because I feel like at least for me, it's really important to feel respected, and the best kind of business is when it doesn't feel like business. I don't know where I heard that, but I feel like I heard that from somebody. I'm well, I don't know how much you know about me, but I'm very much true to myself, and my personality, my values, who I am is very much like at the forefront of like when you meet me.
Mm-hmm.
So I always feel like if people are open to working with me, or they're interested, or reach out, or they're like, oh, I've heard of you, I want to work with you. Clearly, our value system is going to be somewhat similar, aligned, or um, obviously I try to be super professional all the time, but I'm also going to be myself, and people there are certain people, certain roasters that do tend to gravitate towards that, and then the ones that don't, totally fine, but I do
Hmm.
try to work with people whose values we align, and even for the customers who follow me on Instagram or whatever, like there's no filter. It is the same Pablo that you see on the streets. And I'm open about it, and I want people to almost like realize who I am, and um so on that part is like if I'm transparent on who I am, and then people still want to work with me, then like okay, we're set. Not that I'm crazy or anything, but I don't know, there are some um certain situations where it's just not going to be a match, and that's totally fine, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
not worth to invest my energy and time in something like that. The trust gets built over time. It's nice when you get to the point where a lot of the conversations that you end up having with your customers is not about coffee. In fact, when there are days where like I talk to my customers and we don't really talk about coffee, that's probably one of the best days. Just because I like to feel part of their companies. Like I like when people reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, look at our new packaging. What do you think?" Like those are things I live for, and that's when I know we've reached that point of like, okay, we trust. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm part of your company, then like solid.
I think what I hear when I'm listening to you talk about it is it's a good reminder, I think, for anyone listening to the show or any entrepreneur in general. It's the person on the other side of any business relationship is a person. It's a human being who's got, their personality and their life, and all of that brings value, and it's all their collected experience is going to be reflected in their work. And if you can communicate on that level, it's only going to enhance your business relationship. Early in this chat, I say early, it was only a few minutes ago. You were talking about all the reading you do, learning about what's going on around the world and in your industry, and things that would affect you. Right now, there's just a boatload of content coming out about coffee prices. If it's not coffee prices, it's how climate is impacting our coffee farmers and the cost of coffee prices. It's how our politically, maybe not direct as coffee, but like we're in a period where no one's quite sure how the United States in particular is going to be trading with other countries or impacting trade. What are some things that you see is going to be impacting your role as a trader and the coffee industry in general as we're kind of moving forward into this next 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, well, like we like to say in the office, it's never a dull day in coffee. I feel like, especially after COVID, and it truly just made for a very interesting, just very fast paced changes, and it's been not normal for whatever normal means. But I feel like for a very long time, things were very, um, there were a certain way that didn't really change much. And
Mhm.
then after COVID, everything has just been very different, which I've personally like really enjoyed. The problem solving is definitely like all those challenges are they're intense at that moment, but they keep it interesting. And like I said, because of my background and in history, is just like to live it, to live these historical times is just really interesting, and I love explaining to my customers like what exactly is happening and how we're creating solutions. And obviously NKG and Inter-American Coffee, we just have like this huge network of being able that facilitates us to like navigate these like crazy issues. I feel like the Red Sea thing, that was huge, like having to reroute so many coffees. I think that was huge, and we got through that. And then on the topic of like climate change,
I mean, is that something you guys talk about in the office regularly or within your group? You know, whether it's
oh
online or person.
yeah, no, forever. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I said, I feel like it's been a long time, and I did want to talk about this topic of climate change because it was probably, I want to say, maybe like 7 years ago that I was invited to give a talk at Modern Times by Bartleby and Tessie. And they invited me, and they were like, okay, Pablo, we'd like you to talk about climate change. And like I said, this was like 7 years ago. And that was probably the first time I heard about it. That was the first time I was kind of thrown off because I was like, what am I going to talk about? I was like very new to the topic. I was kind of nervous, but I did my research. I like called different farmers from like 5 different countries. And I asked them, I was like, hey, have you noticed any changes on the weather or whatever? Because nobody was talking about it back then. And literally every producer that I talked to from like Peru, Honduras, Colombia, Mexico, they were all like, yeah, like rains have been super different, but it's only a Honduras problem. And then in Peru, they were like, oh yeah, the dry season's longer, but it's only here in like Peru. And then I was like, okay, everybody's having issues, but since they're not talking to each other, they don't see how it's like a global thing that everybody's going through. So then that was super insightful, and I'm forever going to be thankful for that team at Modern Times to have asked me that question. And then so I feel like I was almost like prepared because I had that information set. And then after that, every year I kept checking in, and then little by little now I see how it's actually become part of the daily conversation in green coffee. But it was something that was brought on to me as a question from the Modern Times team, which was super cool. So yeah, I mean, it's been something that has been affecting producers, and it's one of those things that's like very incremental, very slow, and but we're definitely at a point where either harvests are delayed or they come early, or the smaller crop. Obviously, we've seen with Brazil a huge impact, and now it's affecting the prices. So for people that say it's not real, it is now part of the sea market. So
Sure. I think, I mean, my feelings on climate change are pretty well known. You know, I'm a believer. I think I grew up in farm country in the Midwest, and farmers, I think, have always talked about changes. Now, what causes it, you know, maybe up for debate in that area, but uh, the fact that it's happening isn't up for debate. You know, this is affecting farmers. I think people who are when you talk about the sea market, there's a reason why the cost of coffee, you know, even just in your local coffee shop, is going up. It's not
mhm.
just because, I mean, a lot of things are going up, but like if you're somebody who's upset or complaining because your coffee is $5 or more than, you know, $3, or your pour over is 8 or 9, well, that's, I think, an indicator to say, what is the reason for that? What is causing this thing? It's not, coffee people in general, I haven't found to be terribly greedy. If anything, they want you to have the coffee and they're willing to take a hit on it. How do you then translate to your roasting partners? Hey, you need to prepare because they're thinking ahead. They're thinking 6 months, a year, 2 years ahead on like what their product that they're going to buy is, I assume, or you're thinking it on their behalf.
I'm thinking of it like I was going to
Yeah.
say.
How are you then kind of translating that to them to say, hey, you need to prepare because this is where the cost structure is going? And if they're on the other side of that, introducing new pricing changes for their customers is also going to be challenging.
The communication conversations that I'm having at the moment is just like, okay, everybody needs to talk to the traders more. Like the communication needs to be like, it's got to change. And we all have to be flexible. Those are like the three things I keep telling everybody, and that's going to mean different things for different people. The price of coffee in general is like a very broad thing. You know, there are coffees that are priced against the C market. There are coffees that are flat price. There are coffees that have their own pricing thing because of, I'm talking about like coffees from like Africa. There's like the direct trade pricing. So it's a complex, to just talk about pricing in general. But yeah, people are going to have to adapt. But I always like to start the conversation by just saying, this is where prices of coffee should have always been. So it's almost like we are right now being forced to readjust to a reality that is probably more equitable for everybody. This is probably going to be like the first year that farmers are truly going to be able to like reinvest in their farms. Because we've had these like, I don't even know what to call them. Slave wages. Like, I don't know, for farmers for the past ever. So yeah, it's more of an adjustment. This is a business. So new countries will come in to take in, to any gaps of production. I feel like there's going to be like readjustments and changes, and we all have to work around that structure. We're not at the center of the universe. So if we have to change the way we buy coffee or the coffees that we offer in order for businesses to survive, this is business. But I think, there are certain coffees where, like right now, Brazil is more expensive than coffee from Colombia. So switch to that. Or there are coffees that are going to be, some countries are going to artificially try to keep low to take advantage of just the pricing. So just be smart about the communication with your trader. If you have a wholesale account and this is what they need, like, talk about the pricing where you need it. Don't, and obviously be smart about it. Talk to different traders. I always suggest people, like, don't just talk to me. You have to talk to other people. Get the best pricing out there. If you really want to maintain the relationship with me, then like let me know, and then I'll see what I can do. But yeah, just communicate and be flexible, and you have to realize that this is a global phenomenon that's happening like around the world. So if you have to communicate to your customers as well about any changes in pricing, you're not going to be alone. It is super important for people's businesses to also stay afloat. So it's a balancing act.
People are, when I say people, roasters and coffee shops and customers are expecting to some extent coffees that take on something beyond just flavor and price, and that is the idea that they're ethical or they come from sustainable sources. What does sustainability in coffee mean to you, and does that word still have meaning to kind of the industry? I feel like I just hear it from everyone at this point. I can't even think of the last time I looked at somebody's roasting company website and didn't see that word on it.
No, that's true. I do see where you're coming from with like the word losing the meaning, but the word still like obviously means a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I feel like sustainability is such a important word in different levels. What I love for roasters to focus on sustainability at the farmer level, but I almost wish roasters would focus on sustainability on like just holistically. So from like if you're gonna be super tight on cost about like the green coffee, then like be smart about all your other things that you're buying. If anything, cut costs on like all these other things so you can invest more on your coffee. And if you want to be a sustainable coffee buyer, ask questions. Like ask questions to your importer. Be super nosy about it. Like we don't care. We want to answer the questions, but to me, it's still surprising how little questions roasters ask. I also do understand a lot of the roasters that I work with are like, small, like they're roasting, they're doing the hiring, they're doing the training, they're training the wholesale
Mm-hmm.
accounts, they're covering shifts. Like it's crazy the amount of work that these people do. And obviously that's why I feel like they rely on me to do a lot of, this filtering for them. But I do wish people were less scared or nervous to like just ask questions. Ask, what where the coffees are coming from, and like maybe the structure of the co-op. Like all of these things are really important for you to ask, for you to call yourself a sustainable green coffee buyer. Those things are important. But yeah, as far as sustainability, it's like it's not just how much you're paying for the green coffee. Obviously, that's super important. But are you working with the same people year to year? Are you visiting the people and actually working on some sort of project with them? Are you how smart are you with your sampling? I feel like if you're asking for 20 samples to meet a pour over niche, like you're being very wasteful on the consumption of different things. So it's like you're consuming. I feel like we tend to pick on the producer so much about like, okay, are you using chemicals, are you doing this, but it's like how many cups of plastic are you using as a roaster? So even the concept of sustainability seems to be colonialized.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you need to turn that light around and focus it on all aspects of the business, not just the
Because
one
most
you're
of
buying.
the unsustainable practices that happen are in the coffee shop.
We get a local farm box here, and I was talking at the farmers market. I met the farmer, the farmer representative, and I was like, "Well, is it organic? Like how are you growing this? And like you don't have any of the certifications they have over there." And his answer was, "Well, we couldn't afford those certifications. Like if we can't afford that, we're certainly not affording the chemicals that you're worried about. Here's what we do. We set up a video camera. If you want to check in on what we're doing on any given day, you just log in." And I thought that was such a smart way to answer that question, because I immediately was like, "Oh wow, I'm gonna actually, if I not that I do check in on it because I trust that they're doing it now, but it was a nice way to say, oh, like the challenges you're facing are the same challenges as a customer that I'm facing, that I'm concerned about, the cost of it and where it comes from and how it's grown. You have this kind of large network of this large community in coffee. Is that you've talked a bit about being true to yourself and who you are. Does your coffee community and your personal community overlap a lot, or do you find that you need a break from one side or the other?
Yeah, I feel like it was like maybe a couple years ago where I was like, okay, I can't have my life be coffee. And FYI, I feel like everybody who's listening to this, like, don't forget about that. I feel like it's super important to keep this balance. Even if we do a bad job at it, at least you have the intention to like separate ourselves from coffee. Sometimes it's super important. It will make you happier. It will make you a better coffee person if you at least try to have a world outside of coffee. I promise. Um, but yeah, at the same time, they do a lot of the times intersect, and it is beautiful. It is as cliche as it sounds. It is the community that keeps me going and interested in coffee, because I feel like where the intersections happen is with creativity. Like I'm drawn to creativity, creatives, all that fun stuff. And I even creativity, I think it intersects with sustainability. Like if we make sustainability cool and sexy in the marketing sort of way, like I always tell like people how part of sustainability should be creativity, because farmers want to see their product being showcased in the most beautiful way possible. And that whenever I show producers like all the creative packaging and all the cool events that shops do with their coffees, like they get so excited and they get so happy and they feel so proud um of the work that they do. And like psychologically, that is such a huge part of just making it sustainable for them to grow coffee. If they're excited and happy about it, and then gives them the right endorphins to want to keep doing it, that's also, I feel like, a sustainable practice, you know. So I feel like there is this creative part that draws me to coffee, and I want to see more of it. And I do tend to surround myself with these roasters and people that like that. And I do think the beauty about San Diego coffee is that everybody is creative in their own way. You know, all this new wave of coffee roasters in the city that has proliferated, the proliferation of these new roasters, being ex baristas or coming out of either the food or barista world, and seeing all their personalities just represented in their shops, like it gives me life. It makes me really happy. And so yeah.
San Diego's coffee scene, I think, is just incredible, just in its growth. I mean, quality, absolutely, but also just growth. I moved to North County from San Diego 8 years ago, and when I go back, I was down in Pacific Beach yesterday. There's like 7 new coffee places for me to choose from that wasn't there before. Or people ask me all the time, "Oh, have you been to this place in, I don't know, Chula Vista or Mission Hills?" And it's like, no, like there's so many. Like I could spend every day of the year going to a new one. San Diego, in particular, being a border town, I think has a unique relationship with Mexico, and I feel that here in San Diego, I see a lot more coffees from Mexico represented than I do necessarily out in my travels elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
In California, San Diego, Southern California, do you think that there's a relationship that we have or should have with Mexican coffee farmers, that we do or we don't? I mean, where do you see that relationship, and how does proximity impact our support for those farms?
Yeah, this is a great question. As some people know, like I do have this particular interest and passion for coffee from Mexico. It's been maybe like, so my first um, supplier visit to Mexico was 8 years ago to Veracruz, and with Samuel Ronson of La Joya Coffee, and that really opened up my eyes on where coffee from Mexico was heading, and the history, because I got to visit some like really historical farms and mills in Mexico, and just kind of seen the history of coffee from Mexico being commercial, but then the newer generation of coffee farmers really wanting to, you know, that come from that history and those families to progress into the specialty world. And you know, them having almost realized how they were maybe behind the times, or just, you know, they weren't at the level where like all the other Central American coffee producers were heading to because of historical reasons, right? And that trip was very insightful. At the same time, I was working for a company that was heavily investing in Oaxaca, and I got to work with Israel Paz, um, now of Denso Coffee, and together we came up with this like selection of Oaxacan microlots, again with the creativity twist of making it loteria themed, and it was super cool. And honestly, it was Modern Times that was like the first, and I bring them up again. They were the first ones that were really interested in carrying these microlots, and I think because of their beer background, they understood the market of what people wanted. Where I feel like a lot of the roasters were like, "Oh, coffee from Mexico is not specialty." They were more open minded about where coffee from Mexico could go. So it was truly because of their interest that I was like, okay, we can make this happen, and it was a success. And then from that background, now at InterAmerican, I feel like I understood the potential, and I've always been interested in Mexico. I grew up here in San Diego, and yeah, like you said, it was like this. There's I'm not Mexican. I'm from Ecuador, but having grown up at the border, you feel that connection, and I feel like that is true for a lot of people in San Diego. You don't necessarily have to be Mexican to want to carry Mexican coffee. You see it at all these shops here because we all resonate with the culture. Yeah, so those are all reasons why I have this passion for coffee from Mexico. Then obviously I've been able to do different trips to visit different. I visited Oaxaca, Veracruz, different parts of Veracruz, Chiapas, in Mexico, and just seeing everything that's happening, and especially these last few years, getting more of a sense of the political situation and all of that reality as well. It's a very complex supply chain down there as well because of the cartels and all this other stuff that's happening in
Mm.
Mexico surrounding violence and immigration. It's been truly cool. Again, with my history like brain, like just to see it all and then get to I write these reports, and then yeah, so all of that is, I feel like, it's really interesting. Also for me, it's like there are all these coffee producing countries. I truly can't wrap my brain around every country. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on all the countries, because it would, people that say that, I'm like, are you really? I feel like I like focusing on, you know less is more. So with Mexico for sure, I feel very passionate about. Also Peru. um I've loved making connections there. The reason why you see all these different coffees from Mexico all over San Diego is that connection. And I do feel like that earlier work that, I don't want to say like I did, it was like a team of people that we did, almost like opening the door for Mexican coffees of, the 84 plus to come in, and for people to want to carry them, because people were very apprehensive at first. It was like a hard no on Mexico, and then now to see it at almost every shop in San Diego is beautiful, and it makes me so happy, and I just want to see more of it.
That's a good example of how representation works. People see it in other shops, they get a chance to try it without the risk of being the one bringing it in, and then in the future they're running their own shop and going, "Oh, you know what we should do?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to Pablo about Mexico coffees." Uh, my first coffee farm experience was actually in Ecuador, and I was fortunately and unfortunately, not terribly well versed in coffee at the time, and so I just kind of took it in as this fun experience. You were instrumental in something called the Cold Brew City Fest. Is there any chance it's? I don't believe it's currently happening, but is there any chance a cold brew festival comes back that you're part of?
Well, so first I do want to like, because I get this question all the time, and just for people to understand what this was, for me this festival was a creative concept. It was almost like an art piece that came together because of, it was three people, right? It was Itzel Islas in the creative front. She's an artist here in San Diego, and Kane Adams was the organizer of the actual competition logistics and all things like structural judging of the coffee cold brew part. And then I kind of was the glue to bring all of it together and actually make it happen. Yeah, it was just like a very particular time where like the three of us were in San Diego, and Division came up, but it just the creative part was such a big component of it, and it was a coffee festival, but I like to think of it as a yeah, as a more of a creative sort of thing that happened. And yeah, unfortunately, like, because, you know if not all of the members are here, and our jobs have changed and all this, it's made it very hard to kind of bring it together. Also, now we have we just had our first San Diego coffee festival, and honestly, when I saw that, at first I was like, oh man, because it was on my plans to at least bring it back at some point. But it is just a massive amount of work. We really truly did it out of passion, and all the little details that we put in it was because we wanted to create this like artistic almost experience for people to come and create this moment of happiness that because every festival had a theme, and we did a video, we did a song, we did all these fun things that really were just us trying to like express our creativity through coffee, which again I feel like it's something that is very important to me. So yeah, to bring it back, I feel like would be, I don't know, would be difficult. If anything, I've been trying to channel that energy and everything that I learned from that experience into new events, new ideas, new concepts. What I like to call my new Pablo era is like almost not a mature different, but it's like now I learned so many things from putting that festival on, from my different team members, like specialty, especially like diversity, inclusion. Those were big takeaways from putting the festival together. Being proactive about the creating a diverse group of people. Everything that you do needs to truly represent what is happening. Right, we wanted to create like a little micro environment of the actual coffee scene. So we were inviting people from Tijuana, from LA, women roasters, and all that. So I feel like now that I get to plan a lot of events for InterAmerican Coffee, it's like I've taken that into now. We're about to host our third Women's Month mixer, and I feel like when I do events like that, I try to incorporate all those different things and doing collaborations with like a roaster and an ice cream maker, and have it at the event, or like a pastry chef and one of the roasters, and create a pastry together for the event. And all these things come together, and now I get to do them for Inter-American Coffee. Also, when I host events for SCAA or anything like that, it's still in a sense alive in the cuppings that I do here at the office when we do them. Um, but to bring it back, it was just a very particular moment in time.
You are through that back then and the events you do now, and through your role as a trader, you're engaging with a lot of people. Sometimes you're going to be coming across somebody who is new to buying coffee, somebody who is not trusting in themselves. Is there a piece of advice that you might offer a roaster who was looking to not just buy a good coffee or an excellent coffee, but to, so anything that if they were aspiring to be good at it for the long term, what would you say to them?
The specific customer that I deal with is like the new to medium sized roaster, right? So
Right.
I'm literally talking to new roasters every week.
So this question's
And
perfect.
yeah, so yeah, I feel like I always kind of, make very direct questions on like what they enjoy, or what their take on coffee is. I try to assess like what they value from coffee. A lot of people that come from like the restaurant scene, like for them it's more, I kind of understand exactly what they're looking for as far as like the profile of the coffees. If you come from a coffee background, I feel like you're gonna want more of the more fun stuff, or what we consider fun. So I gear them towards that. So it's really just like, if you call a company, an importing company, and you're like, hey, I'm new, like be sure to like talk about your personality and what you're truly seeking from coffee, and just be very also mindful about, don't ask for like 10 samples. First of all, like I don't do that. I'm always very clear about like, okay, let's narrow this down. Let's not be wasteful, and let's, I understand people want to like try it all, but if let your trader kind of at least guide you through the first round, and I do like to have people come to the office to cup to kind of get a sense of what they do. But it's really important for you to communicate like what your vision or your dream for the company that you want to start or you're starting. But definitely like shop around, talk to different importers. I do feel like it is crazy to me how San Diego has, we're here in San Diego. We have a cupping lab. We're very welcoming. It's a very like cool office. We're very happy to have people come and do cuppings here. So that's I feel like something that if you live in another city, you might not understand that that's not something that everybody has. You can't go to like even LA and have a cupping at an importer because no importer there has an office. So we're in a very particular city that has a few importers here that you can just go walk in and cup. To take advantage of that, if you're in San Diego, yes, it is very overwhelming. All the offerings. So yeah, I feel like I also I try to, for my own sake, not have that FOMO of like, I'm constantly on Instagram and I'm like always looking at what everybody else is doing. And I feel like this is true for everybody, right? It's same for roasters. It's like you get like this FOMO of like, damn, I'm not doing enough, or like, did you see that other importer doing all these other cool things? But that could easily drown you down. Right now, I'm mostly just focused on like, okay, this is the supply chain that we have and that we're working on. I'm clearly, obviously, seeing what everybody else is doing, but my job is to, be proud of the people that we're working with. And if anything, like if I see something cool, I'm gonna want to discuss it with who we're working with and see if we could do something similar, or we could focus or even have the conversation about different varietals or something like that. But I feel like, yeah, work within your network, and if you're new and starting out, have a clear vision of what you want to be as a roaster.
I'm I'm assuming you try a lot of coffees. Do you ever get a chance to just go and drink a coffee without having to think about it? Is that even possible for you?
It is possible for me. I'm not gonna say where I get coffee sometimes because it might be controversial.
Well, if you were out and about, let's say you were just headed around, you saw a coffee shop and you stopped in. What do you order when you look at the menu?
Well, okay, to be truthful, so Monday through Friday, I we have amazing coffee here at the office because I'm able to order or buy coffee from our customers, or they send us coffee. So Monday through Friday, like I'm set. We're always brewing the Chemex, and it's always really fun. And everybody here is really picky, so we always have good coffees and great discussions. And on top of that, we cup. So, but and then on the weekend, I realistically just get 2 days to venture out and drink coffee. And that's why sometimes if you follow me on Instagram, you're like, did Pablo really just go to 3 shops in one day? And it's because it gives me such happiness to like go to customers and then drink a coffee that I somehow helped be a part of, or like, to sit there and just drink it and taste it and be like, okay, I went to this farm earlier in the year, or I suggested this coffee, or um, that is probably one of my favorite things to do. So since I do work with so many roasters here in the city, it's like, I mean, I that's really all I do. I very rarely just walk in to a coffee shop. Not to
Blind.
say that I don't go to coffee shops that don't carry coffee that I roast. I do try to venture out sometimes, and I mean, shout out to so many cool people doing things out there, and I generally I am a coffee like I do it because I like it, so I will be curious and want to try different things. So
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
want to put you on the spot and ask you for your favorites. I wouldn't be fair to everyone.
If
One
I
of the
do go somewhere, I mean, if I know, I generally drink espresso. If it's gonna be a single origin, or if somebody's really excited about a blend, I do enjoy my espressos, and you'll see me post about an espresso, and then I put the notes because I love doing that. I've been doing that for years, and I do love drip. I love getting a little side of mini cortado glass of drip. I'm always bothering the baristas. I'm like, hey, can I get a little taste? Like they already know I'm gonna do that. And during the summer, like I love cold brew. I like to have a little. Also, so I always end up with like all these little cortado glasses around me. I like to sample everything, and then if I haven't had breakfast, I'll have a cortado for breakfast.
Oh, perfect. Something we've been doing this year, we've talked a little bit about giving back already, but for the last couple of years, we've been kind of making donations every month, just as something that we do, and we wanted to incorporate that into the show. So I've just been asking guests if there's any sort of charitable or nonprofit efforts that have been important to you in the past or are important to you now, and stuff that we can share with our audience and hopefully grow that sense of, hey, even if it's just a little bit, we can help out.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily have like a charity that that I can think about, but this is a topic that I do want to briefly discuss. Is how, because now there are all these smaller roasters, I feel like something that I'm noticing that I want people to be aware of is that if we come together as a community, and we can create an impact. Sometimes I feel like roasters think because they're so small, they're not going to be able to do things that like maybe bigger roasters can do regarding uh, uh, projects, in the
Sure.
producing countries. And I do want people to know that outside of me selling you coffee, I can also help you come together with people down up in these countries. And why not, like, let's put some money together and let's buy some depulpers or like some sort of equipment, or if a producer needs something, like let's come together and let's make that happen. Like I want to see more of that. I don't see that enough. I feel like I missed that from the Bird Rock direct trade era. That was kind of like a very important part of the specialty world that I feel like we're losing because we're being so focused on the quality side of things, or like the what's fun, what's new. All that is great, but in moderation, because we also need to. For me, coffee is a medium for social change. Like that's why I'm in it. I truly believe that it can be something that can bring two worlds together and communities together. I want to see San Diego as a community be connected to communities in the producing countries and create this, international community. Let's do it. Like, let's focus on that. I feel like the year is starting. If everybody comes together on a project, or if because even if you're a small roaster, like you can afford to buy a producer some sort of equipment, and then if we all do it, that's a huge impact. I recently collaborated with Gentile and Altrea Coffee, and together we did 10 depulpers.
Wow.
That's more than I'm sorry, that's more than like a lot of the bigger roasters are doing, and these are two roasters here in the city. So you can do it. And if you and I do would love to find a way for all of us as a community to come together and do like one big project. Like that would be super cool. That's on my to-do list to hopefully be able to do. I remember one time we also put together a project to help build coverings for like to dry the coffee, and that was a cool project we did a while ago. And same, it was like people, even baristas, donated and stuff. So we can do it, and we need to do more of it.
That's a really, I think, rewarding way to support producing country too, or producing farmer, because you actually will see the change that you're trying to enact, as opposed to sometimes when you donate, whether it's money or clothes or help or whatever it might be, there's a little bit of a, okay, I pushed it out the door and now it's just sort of gone. And I'm assuming it went to a good cause or it went to a good thing that I, trusting that they did that. in this situation, what you're talking about, you're actually making a connection with somebody on the other side and seeing how that's going to impact them. So if I have an idea, if anyone has an idea, we can route it to Pablo and
Yes,
at least
please
see where
reach
we
out.
can go. Anything I missed today that you want people to know about you, about InterAmerican, about anything that's on your brain?
Well, I mean, I just, as a conclusion, I just want to say like how happy I am with the current state of all the small roasters popping up in San Diego because, like I said, I feel like everybody that is opening up their shops has this coffee background, and they're former baristas that maybe I worked with in the past, and then now to see them have their shops and showcase their personality in the products, and now having worked with people as baristas and now I get to sell them coffee is just such a beautiful thing. And we have a beautiful thing going. And let's remember, like I said, to come together. Even if you don't work with me, like let's do a project together. Let's not forget how coffee can have such a big social impact, and have that be the conversation or be part of the conversation. Yeah, support each other, and we have such a beautiful community. I truly feel it, and I feel like so many people from different cities always reach out to me and they're like, man, it just looks like you guys are having so much fun down here, and we are, and at least that's what I see. So let's keep it doing. Let's keep it going.
Pablo, I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate you. We've gone long. I've taken an hour of your life away from coffee and work and everything else that you're doing. I just really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
And to everyone else listening, you'll find all the links that we chatted about in today's episode, including the one to interamericancoffee.com and Pablo's Instagram that he's always on constantly in this podcast show notes. And we'll also include that in our newsletter, which you can sign up for or follow at coffeepeoplepodcast.com. This podcast is part of our Roast West Coast network and can be found on all your favorite platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Just search for Coffee People. Shout out to our presenting sponsor, Roastar Incorporated. Their support has enabled us to keep doing this, to keep telling these stories and talking to people like Pablo. So thank you. Thank you for listening and letting us share these stories. Tip your baristas. Be sure to drink, good coffee. Thank you.
I did want to expand on what projects I've been currently working on in Mexico. And, the last 2 years, I've been able to take roasters from San Diego to different parts of Mexico.
Oh, that's cool.
And, naming off, it was like Ultra Coffee, Gentile, Seven Seas, Caffeine and Green, and some other roasters, but those are the ones from San Diego. And I feel like, so these last 2 harvests, right? And then creating those relationships with certain coffees. Like the first year, we were able to visit Chiapas and Veracruz, where our headquarters are located. And the region of Zongolica is where we work with a lot of women producers, and we have a very cool women produced lot. So that coffee was sort of new to us at that point. It was probably like the second harvest, but it did really well. And I definitely wanted to visit because I'm always really interested in coffees from female producers, and I just like that representation aspect of coffees when you can have a single producer that's a woman or a group. And so we went there, and then it's cool, then the next year that has grown, and now for this third year, we've seen such a growth of popularity in that coffee, the women's Zongolica coffee, super popular coffee that we carry. And then that year also, the first time we went to Chiapas, and we started working with a single producer for the Dragon Lot Natural, and that also has been a very popular coffee that has continued to grow. And working with a co-op called Mocabe in Chiapas. We've visited them 2 times. So yeah, it's that like going back and bringing these roasters and seeing the growth that I've been working on, and especially now with last year we started visiting Finca La Esperanza, which is a single producer farm, and we brought really fun coffees from them that you can find in Gentil and Seven Seas and a few others. The most exciting one, personally, I feel like it was the Finca Tierra de Reinas that Provecho carries this year. There's a woman produced micro lot natural, super fun. So again, it seems like it would be an easy thing to just kind of accomplish, bringing a micro lot I just like pick. But these are things that like we're going there, we're visiting the farms, we're cupping at the table. At the same time, I have to like very quickly think of customers that are going to like want these differentiated lots, because we're taking on this risk, and it's like opening the ground for new coffees. Another one, for example, like with Finca La Esperanza, this was the first time that coffee has ever been imported into the United States. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of like the work that I've been doing. Also with Finca Muxbal, that's been a super popular one too. And again, I feel like that's been like 3 to 4 years in the works. We started buying 20 bags, then 30 bags, and then now this crop we're talking about like possibly bringing like our first full container of this lot, because we just have so many customers that like it. But it's like this work takes a lot, because I have to constantly like remind the roasters how special this coffee is, and the work I do calls and just try to keep everybody in the loop. I have calls with the producers. Like this last weekend, I had a call with Jorge from Finca Muxbal, and I happened to be at Gentil because it was a Saturday. I was just on my day off having a coffee, but that was the best time for me to be in like a good mood and just in the mental clarity to like be able to have a conversation with the producer. And what better to be talking to him while at the same time like drinking his coffee. So I was drinking it, and I messaged him, and he was like, "Hey, let's talk." And I was like, "Hey, is this a good time?" And then we talked about how this year is going to go. So yeah, I know it's kind of a lot, but you have to have that drive and passion to want to have to make it a thing and make it happen and make it grow. So when you ask like, why do we see all these coffees from Mexico all over San Diego? Yeah, it's been a work of many years, and it continues to change, and it has its up and downs. But yeah, so that's basically what I feel.
You've been building, a market for it, essentially. You've been teaching people about it. When you say that you bring roasters to Origin, which is a really cool experience for anyone who gets the opportunity, what do you see when you bring somebody that maybe hasn't been to Origin before? I mean, we all see YouTube videos of Origin, and we all understand the farming idea in theory. But do you see a change in the customers you're working with when they're actually at the farm and seeing the physicalness of it and the physical labor of it and understanding, feeling the dirt? I mean, what is that experience like when you have a group of people who are at Origin, and those are the people that someday will be roasting and brewing the coffee?
Yeah, so first off, like I feel like I make it always extremely clear how this is another concept that has been like colonialized. The whole like Origin visit. I hate the term, and I just feel like for the longest time there was this like exoticism behind the concept of like people from the global north going to the third world to find through jungles, that whole thing I hate. So the message I try to convey is that we are literally going to go have business meetings. You're going to go meet your business partners, which is why I like to call this like supplier visits, right? Because you're same as if you were going to go visit the factory where they make your cups, like where you're going to visit your supplier. You're going to have conversations about business because this is what we're doing. And yes, you're going to have a cool experience, but that is a byproduct of the experience. this to me is not the whole point, is not to show you how beautiful a farm is. It's for you to meet the person that you're doing business with. Um, but at the same time, obviously, it creates a very important memory for the roasters to just remember all the work. And everybody's always so impressed by the amount of work that it takes to create your coffee. And I do think that is super valuable because, yeah, if something happens, if there's some sort of delay or something, like people here sometimes don't have a concept of all the work and all the people that go behind um, getting your coffee here. We've gotten a lot better at that. I feel like, especially during COVID, it was like a big reality check to a lot of people. So we are at a better point than where we were as far as like understanding the complexities of getting coffee to this country. But I think the most important takeaway is just for me, it's for people to realize that if you're gonna go on one of these trips, it's to build a connection with a coffee that you're probably already purchasing, or with with the intent that you're going there to do business, because that's what this is. If not, why would these people open the doors to their farms, and they usually like give you food and give you, and it's their time, and usually the visits are happening when it's like their busy time. So yeah, I feel like not enough people are like mindful or respectful sometimes on that. So I'm always very careful. Like I take people to these countries when I know that these people already have bought the coffee or have some relationship with the coffee or have the intent of like growing their presence and with these coffees.
It's an interesting, I feel a little chastised, but I think it's an interesting point on the language of how we talk about it. And you mentioned the term origin trip, and I just wasn't thinking of how people listening might be like, oh, this is what they're talking about. I like the term that you used, supplier visits.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't mean to dismiss. That side of it. Certainly, I think the people that are also visiting are thinking about it in terms of their future product and how they're going to be selling that story at some point, the same way that you're selling a story and the farmers are selling a product. And it's an interesting, I think, thing to think about. Not just as I'm not a roaster, but when I'm talking to roasters or when I'm visiting a coffee shop and drinking a coffee from Mexico, I'll certainly be thinking about that the next time I find myself sitting there. Anything else that we missed that you wanted to shout out? I know you can't like say your favorites, but you mentioned that you were at Gentile. What do you order on the menu at Gentile?
Yeah, so I love going to Gentile, and honestly, like they never do a blend. I don't think they've ever had a blend, so they always have 2 single origin espressos. And yeah, so when I go there, they know it's espresso time, and they have like a fun espresso and a chill espresso. So that's how they classify them. So I was having a shot of espresso from Finca La Esperanza, an anaerobic washed, and it was delicious. It was like perfectly fruity and chocolatey, and yeah, super nice.
I need a chill espresso tomorrow. That's for certain. I've been needing a lot of chilling lately. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate it. I also appreciate that you reached out